Hi, this is Jackie Huba with Church of the Customer, and I'm here with David Armano, who is the author of the fabulous Logic and Emotion blog, and who also works for Critical Mass. And today we're going to be talking about Skittles, and one happened yesterday where they actually changed their homepage to be a Twitter search about Skittles. And as Dave mentioned to me, this had been up for a little while, but yesterday it kind of blew up. And there was a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about it. A lot of folks saying this was a great use of social media, others thinking not so much. And David and I had differing opinions, so I thought it'd be great to have Dave come on and kind of talk about why he thought it was a great idea, if I'm characterizing you correctly.
Okay, that's fine.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about, I know you wrote a great blog post about it and had some really strong views about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, initially, my blog post was really kind of sort of taking a step back and just observing what I think is a big shift, meaning that brands are looking for new ways to connect with customers and looking for new ways to be relevant in conversations. And so your typical traditional tactics like a homepage and banner ads aren't cutting it. But I took a step back, and honestly, yesterday, taking off my marketing hat, I spent a good amount of time watching this thing, and I was just entertained by it. I mean, there were just characters. I mean, the things that were being said, comments like people saying stuff like, Hitler ate Skittles, just saying. And then someone talking about pulling Skittles out of their butt, only saying it with different words. And one guy in the evening decided that he was going to donate $1 for every one that retweeted him and got him on the homepage. And so, yeah, to be honest with you, I got caught up in human beings acting irrationally, and I found it to be great entertainment. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, in this economy, something made me smile, and so I like it because of that.
So personally, you thought it was really fun. Would you say that this is what brands should look at as a model for doing with social media?
No, I would not say that they should look at this as a model. I will say this is an experiment, and I will say that companies will learn from experimentation, and that doing is the best teacher. And another thing I like about this from an internal perspective is I can guarantee you that everyone within Mars Corporation is watching this very closely, and they are getting a better education in social media, the good, the bad, and the ugly, than any consultant would ever be able to give them.
And so would you say that it's then a success? What they did was would you deem it a success?
If their objective was buzz, I would say it was a success. If their objective was, selling candy, probably not. I think somewhere along the line that may have been one of their main objectives. You and I talked yesterday, and you had mentioned, no one's going to pick this up, but it's been on the LA Times, it's been in the Wall Street Journal twice, it's been on all the trade publications, it's been on the Financial Times, so it's actually getting a lot of press coverage.
Yeah, I actually did read a lot of press coverage today, and I think the interesting, though, as I looked at it, to me it definitely was a PR stunt, and it seemed like a pretty simple one. We're just going to change our page to a Twitter search. But in the realm of thinking about it strategically, it really, I don't think was a very well thought out PR campaign. They didn't have anything new to promote, like a new flavor or new packaging. So there was no really payoff there of getting awareness for that. It was almost like hiring as I mentioned to you yesterday, like a naked guy to put his logo on your ass and run across the Super Bowl field. It's going to get talked about online, and it's going to be talked about in mainstream media, but at the end of the day, by the end of this week, everyone will have forgotten about it. And I think it was just unfortunately a miss, and not something that I would hope most brands would take away in thinking about how to connect and engage customers through social media.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really interesting analogy. I thought about it a lot since our conversation yesterday, and again, without trying to overthink of it, but what this reminds me of? To me, it's like reality television, and more specifically, it reminds me of when you watch a news channel and they show the background and people are like doing cartwheels and going, "Whoa, look at me, I'm on TV," and that's what happened, right? And we know that works because otherwise news stations wouldn't do that. So I guess, we can overanalyze this thing and say, well, what was the strategy? And I don't know. I don't know if it was to just do something different. I don't know if it was to experiment. I don't know if it was to sell more Skittles. If it was to create buzz and drive traffic, it was successful there. Would I recommend this to other brands? No. And I would recommend to try things and to experiment. But honestly, Skittles kind of broke the mold on this. Yes, they borrowed this model from Modernista. We talked about that as well yesterday, which did it first. But you know what? It's the first time a consumer brand did it. And another brand's not going to be able to do it because it won't get the buzz. People are going to say, oh, Skittles did that.
Exactly. Someone tries it, they're going to get half the buzz. The next company that tries is going to get a fourth of the buzz. It's really not going to work anymore. I think the thing that was kind of amazing to me was, I guess, so many people, there were a lot of, if you will, pundits and folks online saying that this was great and fantastic. And it kind of reminded me of the hype about Second Life. Like, there's a lot of hype about Twitter. Jon Stewart did a whole piece last night, and I think they kind of, Skittles hit the Twitter buzz as it's hitting the mainstream media. But it's a little bit of like the hype about Second Life. People kind of were all excited about it, and it went away because there's really no there. So I was actually more fascinated with everyone talking about the stunt versus, you know, there weren't a lot of people talking about how great Skittles were. And the bad part is, though, we do have a lot of screenshots of that potty mouth people who were saying stuff about Skittles trying to game the system. And that's now on blogs everywhere and could be used later. So I'm really wondering and I'd love to hear from the Mars folks, you know, what does legal think of this? And do they think it was a success?
Yeah, I think their legal team has the biggest balls that I've ever seen within an organization, pardon my French. But hey, you know, you bring up a good point, and let me share with you an observation. Most of the social media experts hated this. From the chatter that I could see, or many did. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there seemed to be a divide, but I saw a lot of negative. And looking at mainstream media, ironically, for as much as we bash it, mainstream media was pretty much like, well, here's what happened, and had a few different, you know, viewpoints, and, you know, acknowledged the buzz, and then also acknowledged that there are risks to it. And I thought the mainstream media actually did a better job of covering, because I was like, yep, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, this is social media. This is how it works. It's the best of humanity. It's the worst of humanity, and I mean, I just found it to be purely fascinating, almost more from an anthropological perspective. And you know, maybe I'm in the minority on that, but I really was entertained by it. People were coming up with some really clever and interesting ways to get Skittles in their tweets. I mean, better than what I see from most copywriters.
It's
true. It was entertaining.
Yeah, no, I can see that it was almost like a game, and people were trying to get their name up in headlights and see what they could do to get in there. I have to say, I actually like better, although it's not going to get as much publicity, that the Facebook page is now Skittles.com, because at least there, you know, you have something to join, and they can communicate with you. And I think they have something like over 500,000 Facebook fans now, and maybe there's an asset they can use to communicate.
But Jackie, how do we know this wasn't the strategy? Right now, I'm just reading now posts again from the pundits saying, oh, they're running because of all the negative How do we know? They actually now have, no, it's not the best design, but they have a platform that they can change the homepage. Do you know in traditional web design that never existed? Granted, this could have been executed better, but look at it. Now and now people are like, oh, it's on Facebook now. What happened to all this other thing I talked about? So we don't know if the strategy was generate a lot of buzz and then redirect it in the first place. We don't know. But to me, I feel like they're pulling levers. Someone's pulling some levers and something's working, you know?
Well, I mean, I will give them that in order to get legal and the heads of marketing and the brand management on board with this, I will give them credit for that. It definitely was ballsy, as you said, and I don't want to see what those balls are. Like you said, they have big balls, but I do give them that. But
they're learning. Like I said, I think that from an experiment perspective, I firmly believe that with these large organizations, that in order to do things, even things that are not like this, but to do things of more, you know, whether it's engaging evangelists, as you talk about a lot, that there has to be a cultural change within the organization. And I think I can guarantee you what's happening right now is everyone in that organization is looking and watching this, and I think they're going to be learning.
Yeah, I guess I would contrast that with what I think is an organization who's doing a much better job, and that's Jelly Belly. Because if you look at the culture and what they've been doing for years, it's really to build this cultish fan base. They have a tour of over I think it's like 700,000 people who come tour the Jelly Belly plant. And, you know, their site doesn't have social media on it. But actually, I looked at the traffic for Skittles versus Jelly Belly for the last, the last year. and it's double for Jelly Belly versus Skittles. So we'll have to see if Skittles can take this jump and maintain it or
Well,
not.
that's like,
But
Jackie,
I
that's
do
like,
really like what Jelly Belly's doing because I think they're doing the hard work to cultivate the evangelists,
yeah.
and they didn't get drawn into doing something crazy. But we'll see if it
Yeah, but
lasts.
and I think that's a really great point. I think you also have to know your brand. I mean, that would be like comparing Harley Davidson to Kawasaki. It's different brands, and some brands don't have the evangelist. Now, Skittles might, and maybe they will do something along those lines. But I don't think that I don't think it's comparable to Jelly Belly. It's like comparing Apple to to PCs in some ways. I'm not saying that's the Skittles brand, but not every brand has that. Like for example, one thing I talk about is Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has that. They should have an ambassador program. They don't. Okay, I don't know if that's the right move for Skittles. They can try and they can see. Tropicana found out that people actually care about their brand, but different tactics for different brands and different strategies as well.
I guess it would be interesting to see, though. I wonder maybe Skittles does have evangelists and they don't even know it. So that, in its own exercise for any brand, I think would be a great thing to do is, do you even have evangelists? And is there something you can do to play off that? Well, any last moments before we wrap up?
I just want to just end on that last thought because, a lot of people are bringing up the point of, is this going to help, are they going to increase sales? And I understand that's really valid. I think you're bringing up a good point, especially with the Facebook group. If Skittles can actually figure out if there's a longer term opportunity past this, and maybe it starts with Facebook or something else, that's a pretty good start at ROI. Realistically, more so than just, this kind of goes back to, I always talk about sort of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile and how do they gauge ROI against that? A lot of people talk about it. It's one of those word of mouth items, but does it really help sell more hot dogs? And I'd love to see the spreadsheet that's figured that out. But that's something we have to factor into these things as well, as looking at ROI as not just clicks, not just traffic, and also not just impact on sales.
I agree, and I think ROI is okay. One measure of great ROI could be: are you building an asset of direct communications, email addresses, Facebook fans? Are you building that community asset? That for future sales, that to me is okay. And I will put this out to the brand manager. I would love to see the sales based off this stunt. If it improves significantly, I think CK and I are going to eat 5 packs of Skittles in one sitting if sales are up, because we don't believe it. Hey, Dave, thanks so much for hanging out with us and sharing your thoughts on this.
All right. Thanks for having me, Jackie. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.